Hi, my name is Caitlin, and you are watching Zombie Eats Books. So this is the second half of my gigantic science fiction fantasy book haul, and then I also picked up some other books at the thrift shop that are not science fiction and fantasy, and I will show you those as well. This book I picked up instantly after reading The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was my little oasis during 2016 and the rise of Trump. So I figure I'm gonna probably reserve this for, a time politically when I need comfort, which, to be honest, is pretty much any day these days. So A Closed and Common Orbit, Becky Chambers. If you like sort of slow character development sci-fi, I would absolutely pick up The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. It will give you warm fuzzies. It has amazing characters and amazing messages, and I absolutely loved it. And also, if you watched Firefly or you liked the movie Serenity, that is a really good comparison to the first book. So, also picked up a couple of books by Nnedi Okorafor, the first of which is The Book of Phoenix. Not really sure about this one, meaning I don't know what it's about. I'm sure I'm gonna love it because it's Nnedi Okorafor, and I just read Binti, and I loved Binti, another author that I have great feelings about, and people on YouTube that I respect have read and loved. So this, I believe, is the precursor to, what's the name of the book? Who Fears Death. This is the book that precedes it. So I'm gonna read this and then Who Fears Death, which I don't have yet, but I will. And then I also picked up Lagoon, which is a book about a spaceship that crashes into the ocean, and then there are these three characters that come together because of those circumstances. Yeah, this is another author. I'm going to read every single thing that she has written. Also picked up a book that both myself and my daughter will be able to read, and that is The Lie Tree by Frances Harding, and the illustrations are by Chris Riddle. Chris Riddle is an illustrator that I became aware of through Neil Gaiman's work, and once I saw that he illustrated this book, I had to get the illustrated edition. So this, I believe, let me show you some art in here. Awesome art. But this, I believe, is a story about a young woman whose father dies, I think, and she wants to figure out the mystery of why that happened or something along those lines. But I know she's either a scientist or she has scientific interests, and that is exactly the kind of protagonist that I want my daughter to read. I don't think enough women go into the sciences these days, and I would like to subtly maneuver her into doing that. So hoping this book will help me out. Also picked up Perdido Street Station by China Mayville. So Perdido Street Station is, I think, one of his most famous books. I believe this is the first in a series, and this is about a scientist, I think. A man. Can't always have everything that we want in a book, but he does experiments and encounters creatures, and the setting, I'm sure, is dark and mysterious and full of dark yet funny characters. I loved Kraken, which I read a couple of years ago, and I'm hoping I get more of the same in here. Okay, these next 4 books were not my choice. I'm just going to put that out there. One of them I'm actually really excited about, and then the other 3, I'm kind of on the fence. So these are from Bookcase Club, which is a subscription service, a monthly subscription service, and I picked the sci-fi fantasy genre for my box, and the first month that I got it, which was December, I got the Cuse game by Wolfgang Jensky, and I believe this is a famous German sci-fi writer, and this book is translated by Ross Benjamin. So this one is about a woman who's a biologist, yay, and I think she has to save the world using plants somehow, which sounds awesome. And this one I am super excited about. This one, not so much. This is called Clash of Eagles by Alan Smale. It's not that I think this is going to be a bad book, it's just not necessarily something that I would pick up or be interested in. I might give it a shot. It is an alternate history sort of story, and it involves the Romans. So for the January box, I got a very interesting book called Beautiful You by Chuck Palahniuk. I've never read Chuck Palahniuk before. Loved Fight Club, the movie, but didn't read it, the book. This book seems a little weird. Now, correct me if I'm wrong if you have read this book or know what it's about, and I'm describing this incorrectly, but from the synopsis, it seems like it's about a woman who starts having sex with this guy, and then she discovers that this guy is plotting to take over the world by giving women amazing orgasms. Basically, that's what the synopsis says, and I am super confused. The other book that came in that box I have actually heard of, and that is The Thinking Woman's Guide to Real Magic by Emily Croy Barker. So this one, I think, came out quite a few years ago, but I am interested in reading this one at least. And it is about a young woman who goes through some kind of portal. I think that she is a Jane Austen fan because I think she has a copy of Pride and Prejudice in her satchel, and she encounters magic in this other world, I'm assuming, and I think she actually ends up training to, wield magic herself, and that's what that whole title is about. I don't know, it sounds Jane Austen, time travel, strong woman protagonist. I might like it. Now for the books that I got at the thrift shop, which I am going to have to avoid on my way home. I'm going to have to take another way home or something and only take that way once a week so that my bookshelf doesn't become overly crowded. But let's start off with a couple of vintage books that I found there. And one of those is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I have never read Dostoevsky before. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but I believe this is about a young man who commits murder, very purposefully commits murder, and does it because he thinks that he is above the law. And I think it's kind of a psychological analysis of why he did it and what happens after he does it. I also found Of Human Bondage by W. Somerset Maugham. This author, I think, was pretty famous during the 1930s, and this, I believe, is kind of like an autobiographical book. Not completely autobiographical, but in some parts at least. I hate hardbacks, but I did find The Paying Guest by Sarah Waters. Sarah Waters is an author that I own a lot of books from. I own 3 of her other books, and I've never read any of her books. I'm going to eventually. She's just one of those authors, again, that I have really great feelings about, and she writes historical fiction, and her protagonists are always strong women who are LGBTQ, I think, and that sounds amazing to me. So I went ahead and picked this up because it was $2, even though I hate hardbacks. A rather famous book on YouTube, Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. This is, I believe, an Australian author, and this book is something that takes place in the early 1900s, I think, and it's about a young woman. Oh, I cannot talk today. It's about a young woman who commits murder, or at least allegedly commits murder, murders 2 men, and then she is sent to live with this family on this island in Iceland and await her sentencing. Something along those lines. I think it's about redemption and her forming a relationship with the local priest and maybe the family. Not really sure, but I heard really great things about it, and I thought that I would give it a shot. Also found a graphic novel that is also a travel diary. I've never read a travel diary before, so I thought that I would check this out. It just kind of seemed unique when I found it at the thrift shop where it was $1. Yeah, it's called Garne de Voyage, or am I supposed to say voyage? Garne de Voyage. It's by Craig Thompson, and it's about his travels through France, Barcelona, the Alps, and Morocco. And I liked the art. Let me show you that. So yeah, looks fun and different. I'll try it out. Also found a collection of short stories called Dangerous Virtues by Anna Maria Moy, and in the description of these short stories it basically said imaginative and feminist, and I was sold. And this is a Spanish author, which is cool. The translator is Margaret E. W. Jones, and this was also published, this edition, by University of Nebraska Press, which is cool. That's where I live, by the way. I live in Nebraska, if you didn't know that. Okay, so the next book that I found is Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Paton. I haven't actually heard of this author, but he is a South African writer, and this book is, I believe, a book that takes place in South Africa, and it's about a pastor, and it's about the politics that are going on during the time that it was written, which I'm not really sure what time period it takes place in, but it seemed really interesting. Also picked up Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I've never read Zora Neale Hurston before, and I need to rectify that. So I picked up this book, which I've heard so many amazing things about, and it is about a young woman who, I don't know, it's just about her life, I think, and her marriages and trials and tribulations, and Their Eyes Were Watching God is pretty much a no-brainer when you see that at the thrift shop for $1, and it's this gorgeous edition. So I picked it up. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me talk about books that I haven't read yet while I'm sitting here in my bathrobe. I'm probably going to go eat something now, and I'll see you next time. Let me know if you have read any of these books. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. All right, bye-bye.